Hey, it's Mark Walter from Industrial Finishes. Thank you for joining us as we talk about value added services. You've heard from Keith. Keith talked about the invoicing app, and we're going to continue talking about the invoicing app, but in terms of profitability from what we call the profit portal. And so you'll see here that we provide a web-based profit portal to our customers. You can have a login. We also provide a login to our sales managers. So anytime that you want to review this with them, you're able to sit down and discuss profitability with them. So I'm just going to walk through the highlights of the portal. You can see over here to the left, there's a variety of tabs. We're going to go through the portal tab here, and then we're going to switch over and quantify additional or improved margin dollars through our margin calculator. And then I'm going to end by talking about our purchase details and how that gives you an open window to your information with us. All right, starting out with the portal, this is the screen that we would open when we meet with you periodically to discuss current profitability and looking at benchmarks and where you might want to set your goals at. We've got this section up here that just has a listing of all the months and years sequentially. And you can see over to the right of that, we've got two sets or two blocks of numbers here. One in gray represents your total production for that month. So at the end of the month, we have a interface or a web sheet in this tool that will allow you to put in total shop sales for the month, the paint and material sales that came out of that total sale number, paint hours, and RO count for the month. When that is in place, it will join with your spend for that month on both paint liquid and body spend or dry goods. And when all 6 of those numbers are in place, you'll see all of these numbers to the right light up with stoplight colors. We start out by showing you gross profit margin for the month. And remember, this is actual gross profit margin because these spend amounts here factor in all of your discounts with us, including any month-end rebate. But we start out with profit margin, and you can see here that over time in our sample customer, this customer has improved from margins in the low 30s, mid 30s, to mid 40s and 50. And that's our goal, is to get our customer partners up from where they might be. Maybe they're 30s, maybe they're 40s, but we believe that we should be tracking and achieving margins above 50%. And the way that we do that is we just bring awareness through this tool, and we meet periodically and just look at these measures over to the right that tell us the why of why our margin might be lower, why our margin may have hit our goal. But these measures over here point us in the right direction as to how we're doing on hitting profitability goals. So these first 4 represent the front of the shop. These next 3 represent the back of the shop. And so just going through these, we measure the average severity of the RO. So this is sales per RO, sales over the RO count. This next one is true invoicing. And so what this is doing is it's tracking your usage of the invoicing app in your shop. And you can see in our example here, we've got a customer that started out very slow with the app processing one invoice for $100, all the way up to using it on average daily to capture $235 in paint and material billings based on the use of the invoicing app. We move over here, we're tracking paint hours per RO because we realize that there's a valuable paint hour and a even more valuable labor hour connected to paint hours. So we track this and hope for 8 to 10 hours. And then we track this last one, last but not least. This one is just a division of paint and material sales over total sales. And what we're looking for here is a tell from the DRPs or from the insurance that they have pushed you back to compensating you less than 10% of the RO in the area of paint and materials. And so, whether that's the insurance pushing us back or we just don't have an effective way to capture all those items on every RO, we want to know if you're sitting at 8 or 9 because we know that insurance will pay up to and sometimes over 10% of the entire RO in paint and materials. And so we'll see that quantified in our margin tab, but those are the measures in the front of the shop. The measures in the back of the shop include this 20 group measure, where a 20 group would tell you that if you took your paint liquid spend and you divided it by total sales, what they would ask you to target is that that be no more than 4% of your total sales. So the amount you spend on paint, 4% of total sales. The reason why they target 4% and 2% on Allied is that if you're earning 10% of the RO in paint and materials, they're targeting a 40% gross profit margin for you. So that would be 4 plus 2 is 6. And then you take that 6 away from the 10 and you're left with a 40% margin. That's a dollar-based approach. That's a rough measure for sure. But we also include these other measures that we like to track, and it's just quantifying the color and the clear ounces that you have purchased and comparing those to the paint hours that you've produced during that same month. We think it's subjective to compare purchased ounces to production paint hours, because we also realize that if you depend on a scale system, it may not be perfect. But we do know that you did purchase this amount of color and clear, and it is very material to your purchases, and that the outcome of that was that you produced these hours. So we like to track this just as an indication of, are we on pace with our purchases and are we in line with our production? We've gotten really good at looking at this over the years that we've looked at this. We know that if you're coming in at 1.5 to 2.0 in ounces per hour of color and clear, that you're likely using product very efficiently. It's when you start getting over 3 ounces consistently that we start asking or discussing maybe there's a culture of overpouring in the shop. We have seen the whole spectrum of this. We've seen a couple shops hit 5s and 6s, and that obviously is answering a different question for that shop owner. But that's basically how these measures work. We've got measures in the front that are measuring the average quality of the estimate, and then we've got these 3 in the back that speak to usage. We also have these 3 graphs down here that relate to, I'd say, the more key measures from up above. Of course, we've got gross profit margin here tracking every month. You can see the progress from somewhere in the 20s, even 30s, 40s to 50 here for profit margin. And you can see how closely that's tied to our ability to capture more of a percentage of the RO in paint and materials. So you can see 9 up to 10. And then this back of the shop measure, we're also tracking color and clear ounces per paint hour. All right, let's go to the margin tab from here, and we're going to talk more about this 9% measure right there. We have this worksheet, and it's basically the same profit figures and profit equation. It's just laid out in a calculator format. And what we wanted to do is to provide awareness as to, as we make improvements in these areas, which one is more valuable to us in terms of dollars, additional margin dollars. So you'll see that we have 2 sections here. We've got the total sales up here for this sample month of September 21. We've got total sales of 223. We've got paint and material sales that came from this number of 20,000. Mathematically, that's 9% of the total. And then we've got this what if gauge here where we're going to be able to drive a little improvement here and see what additional margin dollars shake out down here. We also have a section for cost, and the relevant cost for us in improving profitability is if we're using paint liquid appropriately or not. And so there, we also have a gauge where we can do a what if and determine what additional profit dollars fall to the bottom there if we make improvements. So let's start out with paint. Let's look over here and realize that a 20 group might think that that's a little high for us in terms of paint spend over total sales. So let's say that we targeted to improve our usage of paint and we were able to improve it by 10%. You see that almost $1,000 in additional $1,000 fall to the bottom, or pushing 15% improvement. Let's go to 15% and see what that brings us. That makes us an additional $1,400 in added profit at 22% more margin dollars. But let's compare this $1,400 to if we wanted to come up here to the estimate and set as a goal that we were going to get 10% of the total in collected paint and material sales. If we were able to add just 1 more percent to our average RO in the bucket of paint and materials, that would mean that we would be adding an additional $2,200 to this month. Same work, same ROs, just we're collecting more, we're billing more, we're collecting more in terms of paint and material. And that little adjustment alone drives a 35% improvement on margin dollars. Well, that was a story that we told for years and years, and people would ask, how do I get there? And so we would suggest that they design process around quoting P pages, taking quality photos, having a secondary check on the RO. Well, the invoicing app has kind of stolen the show in terms of our ability to automate and ensure that we're capturing the maximum amount that we intend to on our RO. So we have levels for that, or we have levers for that down here that will let us consider what the opportunity might be for us with the invoicing tool in terms of additional margin. So this is a 60 RO month. You can see that I put in 30 here. Well, let's just pretend that we're starting out slow and we are using it every other time on our ROs. And at first, we are getting $100 in additional revenue capture or paint and material revenue per RO. One of the advantages of the invoicing app is that you create these templates and you're basically presetting or programming in everything that you intend to get by type of job, by type of job and insurance payer. However you want to set these templates up, it's one button push, right? We're taking that PDF that it generates and we're attaching it to the RO. We aren't asking someone to take a scanner for every RO and scan everything used. That often leads to forgetting or not capturing everything as we wanted to. But the template does. And so at first we've got templates that we're using periodically, and each template represents about $100. So you can see that we've already surpassed our 1% improvement to 10%. We're now capturing $3,000 and a 47% improvement in our profit margin if we assume that this is dollars that we would otherwise have left on the table. Let's grow in our adoption. Let's use it over 45 ROs, and let's go to 150 and see that now we're essentially doubling profit at this point. If $150 represents money left on the table, that's going to bring us $6,700, $6,800 in additional profit there. Let's go all the way up to 60 and go to the top range. And this is the average that we see coming through our system from our customers where they're using it on dry goods, on average, our customers are bringing in $250 per RO. If this was in this sample customer, if this was their reality in terms of money left on the table, and they were able to capture this for every single RO, you can see that the increase in profit margin here is essentially covering the cost of paint and materials for this month for paint and dry goods. So there's a difference between earning some margin, right? If we go back to where we were at, we were earning 32% gross profit margin. But what we're saying is we want you to cover more of the cost of your paint and materials up here in additional revenue capture through the invoicing tool. So this is new money that was otherwise left on the table. All right, I'm going to wrap up with one more tab here. We call it the purchase summary. Sorry, we call it the purchase details tab. This is just a testament to the fact that we are going to always be completely transparent with you with your deal. This is your deal. This is your data. And the reason why the three of us get to come out and talk about added value products like this is because we endeavor to be good profit partners. And that means in the profit portal that we're going to give you an open window to all of your purchases daily that you purchase from us. And not only are you going to see everything that you would normally see on an invoice, you will see us lead with the MSRP from the manufacturer or the retail value of that product. We show you the product at full retail because A, this is what you're going to be asking for reimbursement for from insurance, and B, it's because it allows you to back into your deal with us on every purchase. So we've got the refinish amount stated there. We've got your point of sale amount there. And then we've got a calculation that backs into your point of sale discount. And then if part of your deal with us is a month-end rebate, you'll see over here that we've got a rebate amount forecasted for the current month. So this rebate hasn't paid yet. But you'll see that we still fill in an estimated rebate here, and you can tell it's forecasted because this 5% calculation is the estimated rebate rate being plugged in here. But the moment this month closes and the rebate posts to your statement, what you're going to see on that closed month where that rebate paid, and I'm going to go all the way down to a past month, is you'll see this rebate column turn kind of an aqua blue. And what that indicates is we've replaced that forecast with actual rebate dollars that have been put on your statement and then allocated through this program over every part that you purchased that qualifies for rebate. Lastly, at the very end of this calculation, we finally back in to what your rebate rate is for that month. If there's anything off in this month, this will not be 5%. This might be 4.98 all the way down, or 5.01 all the way down. Regardless, in the rare occasion that that might happen, I've had maybe 2 calls in the last decade where there was something not set up on a specific part and it generated a odd looking rebate. You're going to see it. And so this is complete transparency. We want to be different than other distributors that might make it more cumbersome to get data. We give this to you in a completely transparent format. And then these slicers up here, or these filters, give you the ability to basically create your own subgrouping of the report. And then when you're ready, if you have a use for this outside of this program, you can export this directly into Excel. All right, well, that is the full demo on the Profit Portal. I thank you for your time. If you have any questions, please email me, markw@industrialfinishes.com. And I hope to be working with you through profitability soon. Thanks. Bye.